Hey everyone, welcome to the Anderson Bros Outdoors. I'm Jake, and today we're going to talk about some inserts that I've created and have released. Hey everyone, welcome back. As I said, my name is Jake, and today I have some very exciting news on some inserts that I've spent a very long time developing. With that being said, I'm going to turn the camera around and we're going to face the bench and we're going to dive into these inserts and we're going to go over what they are and how they've helped me with my truck. Let's dive into what I have to show everyone today. What is an insert? Well, typically your insert is going to be the piece inside of your tire. So take this tire for example. It is empty. It's going to be the piece in here that fills the void between your wheel and your clamp ring. So your clamp ring is going to sit in the middle, and then you're going to have an insert which is typically foam sit here and fill the void between this area and the end of your tire carcass or your tire carcass itself. So it's essentially going to cover all of this open space in here. Typically you get a piece of foam like this that comes with your tires, and it will go inside your tire just like such. You can just shove it right inside the tire, and then you install the clamp ring inside of here like such. This happens to be an Endura brass clamp ring, and then you will install your wheel. So the wheel will sit between the clamp ring and clamp the bead between the wheel and the clamp ring. So you can see how the bead sits in there. It will clamp it and it will hold the tire on the clamp ring, and you have something other than air inside of there to fill the void to ensure you get traction. I'm sure most of you already know or are aware of this. I just wanted to break it down for some of the people that may not be well versed in this area. Typically you get an insert like this, right? You get an insert from pick your favorite insert provider, and they send you something like this. It's typically printed out of TPU and will have, more often than not, two stages. It'll have a soft stage on the outside like you can see here, and then a harder stage on the inside like you can see here. Now this harder stage is to replicate air in your tire, and you don't really want it to be foam, because when you hit an obstacle or an object or something, a rock we'll say, you don't want the tire to go all the way to the beadlock ring. You don't want it to go to this ring. You kind of want there to be some buffer there to prevent the lugs from simply rolling over. And what I mean by that is, if you look at this, you can see that the lug is essentially folding over at a certain point, and it won't actually provide any traction. As a matter of fact, it will be detrimental to your traction because the lug is just going to roll and you're going to lose any traction that you had. In the grand scheme of things, the foams was the first design and shipped by manufacturers. Then you have what's called a dual stage foam, which has a harder piece in the middle to kind of do the same thing as this 3D printed foam or insert, and have a softer outside with a harder inside. And those work as well. The biggest problem with foams is your side hill ability. And the reason that is because the foam is malleable any direction. You can squeeze it this way and you can squeeze it this way. Whereas if you get a 3D printed insert like this, you can't really squeeze it this way. You can only really squeeze it this way, which allows your tire or prevents your tire from folding over or buckling as you're doing a side hill or off camber climb, if you will. This will really prevent your tire from rolling, and it will keep traction. Somebody got the bright idea that, hey, we can print these inserts and they're actually better than foam. Now there's some downsides to foam. Primarily the downside is water. So if they get wet at all for any reason, they will deteriorate, whereas the TPU will not do that. It will survive water and heat and cold and everything else. There are some downsides to TPU, and the primary downside is temperature. So the way that this reacts inside my house at, we'll just say 70 degrees, is going to be completely different than how it reacts outside, which is right around 45 degrees today. When I put this in the truck and I take it outside and it gets cold, it's going to be way stiffer than it is inside when it's really hot. And this can be problematic for huge fluctuations of temperature. For example, if you're in the desert and it's 100 degrees one day and 50 degrees the next, you're going to want to run different inserts. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. It's just an example. Where does that lead us? Well, one of the primary issues with these inserts is that you slide them over the clamp ring. So the clamp ring sits here, and you can see it is tight, but it's not. And so you have an instance where the wheel is in there, and then you're turning or moving or whatever, and this insert will slide on the clamp ring, and you can see it in different videos. Even my videos, you can see where the tire looks like it's hobbling along, or the tire is pushed one way or the other. And that's because inside of there, really no matter how tight you make it, it will typically move on that clamp ring. It can be problematic. One of the things that I've really noticed in, we'll say 1-to-1 scale crawling, is the wheels and tires that they're using. Typically, the crawler or crawlers, as in this picture here, are using BFG crawlers. So your 1-to-1 scale crawler is using BFG crawlers. There's a lot of crawling there, so I apologize. What they're using is something like this tire here, this BFG tire. However, if you look at the image that I've shown, and I'll show it again, you'll notice that the wheel to tire size is actually disproportionate to RC World. So typically you have a lot larger wheel in 1-to-1, and the primary purpose behind that is to eliminate sidewall roll on those trucks. So it won't move back and forth like this. It kind of caught my eye, which led me into creating a newer style insert, which is where this came from. So you can see that there is a clamp ring inside of this hard plastic insert, and then you have another insert that goes over it like this. So it is essentially a dual stage insert, but the second stage is essentially hard. And then you print the outside insert, and it's a lot softer. And so what that's going to do is it's going to eliminate a lot of that unusable traction, because now the rock can't go all the way to the clamp ring. It stops it right here. And what that looks like on the tire, so if we put this on the tire, you're going to have two benefits. First of all, your sidewall is going to be extremely solid after the wheel, and so now you don't have to worry about it folding in or over, but you're going to have traction here. The nice thing is that you're not going to have as high a probability of that lug rolling over, because it's actually hitting something solid. And so this was really the first step or foray into utilizing these hard second stage inserts. Now, the reason that we didn't stay with this is because no matter how tight you make it, and this is really tight, this clamp ring doesn't want to really come out of here. I think I had to use a rubber mallet to get it in. But no matter how tight it is, when you wedge this between a rock and the truck and use something like a Reefs or NSDRC servo that's extremely powerful, you'll actually move the inner clamp ring away from this outer piece. And that is extremely problematic, much like that. So then you have one of your wheels which is way off to one way or the other, right? So you either have super narrow track width or an extreme track width, because this plastic piece is moved off the clamp ring. So this was really kind of the first iteration that I had tried. These work really well, these being the dual stages, the soft and then firm. And they actually led me to building the more final design. And the more final design is this inner hard piece, but not only is it the second stage, it's also the clamp ring. So now I've effectively removed the need for these clamp rings with these printed pieces. A Vanquish plastic clamp ring weighs 14 grams, a Endura aluminum clamp ring weighs 30, and an Endura brass clamp ring weighs 94. Well, this one, the way it sits, weighs 30. You can actually make it less by changing the infill and your wall count and things of that nature, right? And so you get something like this insert here, which is a little bit stiffer insert for something like the Summer. It slides right over this, and now your entire insert weighs 48 grams. And you can actually make it weigh less. There is the potential of this sliding back and forth like this. I have not actually had an issue with that. The sidewall of the tire keeps the outer piece from moving pretty good. Now, the reason that the tire won't keep this from moving is because this is like loaded in here. This is a lot heavier. So this is extremely light and it's easy to keep in place. This is a lot heavier and it's harder to keep in place, which is why we had to move to a clamp ring style inner piece. I've had a lot of success with this. As a matter of fact, some of my more recent videos have trucks with these inserts in them. I don't know if you can tell or not, but I can tell driving the trucks. Now, this is really one of 3 potential inserts, but I'll talk about that later. So the next inner insert is this one. So you can see there's a lot of holes in this. There's 12 holes to be exact. You can purchase these brass rods, 12 inches long, and they weigh 80 grams a rod. So all 12 holes, just the brass, will net you 120 grams. Plus, you can make this solid. So you could actually make it way more than with just the brass. So like in this instance, we're up to 118 grams. Just that piece is 40 grams. So 40 grams plus 120, or roughly 40 grams plus 120 grams, you're looking at 160 grams per wheel. These are around 90 to 100 grams, plus the wheel, plus everything else. But realistically, we're comparing this with something like this, which would be around 130 grams to something that is 120 roughly. So that's roughly 4 more of these would be 40 grams. So that's 160 plus another 20-ish. So you're looking at 180 grams. Now, this isn't really my style. I know that this, some people may enjoy or like this style, which is why I added it. And really the big benefit here is you can get a 4-pack of these rods for 10 bucks. So instead of paying $20 for a set, you can get 4 of these for 10 bucks, or spend $20. You can do, potentially four pairs of wheels or more, which is more than you can say for that. So as long as you have a printer, you can print these out and you can cut these down and shove them in there. That's not really my preferred method. Now, I've used these, I've tested them. They do work good. The biggest potential risk here is the rod sliding out from inside of the hole. So you might want to use like a dab of glue or something, maybe super glue to hold it in. When you use the sidewall of your tire, it could potentially poke one of these out, but I've not run into that personally. My favorite, though, is this right here. Well, what are you going to do with these 2 pieces? Well, these 2 pieces come together to make one piece. And you can essentially use a grub screw or 2, that's what these holes are for, to keep these together. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, that's an excellent question. So what I'm doing with this is I'm actually loading it with BBs. So we got these Crossman BBs from Walmart for 10 bucks. There's 4.5 pounds here, and I can load as much weight as I want into these wheels, and the BBs are going to stay relatively low. So they're always going to be between here and here. You're not ever going to have any weight up here. I've utilized these significantly in my A1 Speedy and my comp truck, and I've had a lot of success over using something like the brass. There's 2 key features here that make this my choice or my go-to. Is 1, the BBs keep the weight low. I can put as many or as few BBs in here as I want. I can make it weigh 1 gram worth of BBs, or I can make it weigh a pound's worth of BBs. Whereas the wheel moves, the BBs are going to stay down here, which is going to essentially keep your center of gravity relatively low instead of having the weight all around the wheel. And it allows my truck, or more specifically this A1 Speedy, to do a lot more vertical climbs than it could before. You just simply pick the amount of BBs you want by weight, you put them in here, you slide these pieces together, you throw a grub screw or 2 in there, and then you put your insert over it. You put your tire on, and then you simply clamp your wheel in there, and your wheel will keep those 2 center pieces together. Now, I haven't really found any downsides with this. I think the biggest downside that I have yet to discover is water. So water will probably make these brass-covered BBs de-brass or cause issues down the line, getting gunk and stuff inside of there. I don't know that I'll run these in the water. I probably won't. That's one potential issue. Maybe noise. So if the noise bothers you, you hear BBs all the time. It is what it is. The nice thing, though, is that since the grub screws are in the middle, the BBs will essentially be free on the outside. I have linked the outers and inners in the description below. I've also linked the BBs and the rod here. One thing to note is the inners are going to be for different wheels, and they come all in the same download. So there's going to be anywhere from 100 millimeter outer. So the outer diameter is going to be 100 millimeters all the way up to 122 millimeters. And then for the inner, you're going to have all 3 options. So this option, and this option. All three of those options are available with profile to print, so you don't have to mess with your printer settings. All of that is already ready to go. So all you have to do is essentially download it and print them out, depending on your tires. You will likely have to play with the infill settings, and you'll play with those by 0.1 to 0.5%. These are, I think, 3.5%, and these are a little stiff for the wintertime. I would say these are probably a 70-degree or higher temperature. The 2.5 to 3% is more conducive for the colder temps, depending on your truck weight, of course. All three of these inners come in two sizes right now, and I'll make more. They come for 0.8 of an inch, which is Vanquish size, and then 1 inch to accommodate the Endure wheels and some other wheels. I know that there are other clamp ring sizes out there, and so if you download the Cuts 3D, just shoot me a message, and I will need the outer measurement, so the outer measurement of the ring, and then also the inner measurement of the ring, and I will make or accommodate other rings as I can, or other wheels styles as I can. I know the SSDs are different. Those will be added here real soon. I have a set of wheels for those. That's really all I had for the video. You can download these, or if you're savvy enough, you can make your own. And they work really, really well because you don't need a whole lot of traction outside of this, and I think the tires work better from my personal experience. With that being said, we really appreciate making this far. The Cuts 3D link is paid. The reason that is paid is we take all of the funds from everything we make from this channel, whether it's Cuts 3D, the memberships, things of that nature. All of that goes back into the channel for the community. We're not keeping any of the money. As a matter of fact, if we do get a bunch of sales on these will probably go to giveaways for wheels that go in these. Maybe more Vanquish wheels like the giveaway we're doing now, or something else. We appreciate you making it this far. Feel free to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. Huge shout out to the TABO club members. And as always, we hope you have a great day.